I think one of the most interesting things about the 2000s era of LEGO is how short-lived some of the themes could be. We've seen a few examples of this already with Dino Attack, Pharaoh's Quest, and most recently Vikings, all of which were just single-wave, one-year themes. The Aqua Raiders theme of 2007 falls into the same group. Aqua Raiders technically is Aqua Raiders 2. Aqua Raiders 1 was part of the Aqua Zone theme, which originally was introduced in 1995. The underwater themes of the 90s are particularly fascinating, as LEGO treated them as they would the space or castle themes of the time, where there were multiple underwater sub-themes going on at the same time. Each of them were different warring factions, one of them being the first Aqua Raiders. The Aqua Raiders of 1997 could not be more different than the one that would appear 10 years later. In fact, it's a very similar situation as to what happened with Knight's Kingdom 1 and Knight's Kingdom 2. They really do have nothing in common. The story of Aqua Raiders 2 here brings us to the Bermuda Triangle, where the divers are searching for long-lost treasures but come up against some mythical sea creatures. 2010's Atlantis theme definitely draws a lot of inspiration from this one. And as much as I love Atlantis, and we will get to that one eventually, I promise, I feel like that story cannot be told without the story of Aqua Raiders. So today we take a look at one of LEGO's most underrated underwater themes, with epic sea monsters, beautifully designed submarines, and of course a giant base. There's a lot to unpack here, so hey, let's take a closer look. Aqua Raiders 2 was released in January of 2007. Coming out with a total of 7 sets, along with some gear items, which we'll be sure to take a look at too. The color scheme of black and yellow fits a lot more closely to the Aquanaut sub-theme of Aqua Zone, more so than it does with the trans neon green color scheme of the first Aqua Raiders. We're going to begin our journey with the smallest set of the bunch, 7770 Deep Sea Treasure Hunter. Deep Sea Treasure Hunter is honestly a great introduction to Aqua Raiders. It packs quite a punch for such a small set, including a beautifully detailed underwater vehicle, some spooky underwater sea creatures, some treasure, and even some underwater terrain too. Let's take a look at the minifigure first. The minifigures throughout Aqua Raiders are pretty much all identical. And that's honestly kind of refreshing compared to today, where every set seems to come with a new and exclusive collectible minifigure. There was none of that nonsense in Aqua Raiders, and it was great for building up your scuba diver army. Each diver includes a classic helmet with an Aqua Raiders print on it. Atop that, they're sporting the goggles that were introduced originally with the divers theme in 1997. All the divers' torso prints are identical as well, with some nice prints on the front and back, and then they all have plain black legs. The only thing that's going to change from diver to diver are the faces, and sometimes we'll get a few divers with just a cap if they're in a drier setting. In addition to that, all the divers typically will come with some fins too. In the case of this vehicle here, they're actually attached to the back here, which is really nice, so that the diver can sit down in the craft but still carry the fins along with him. I'm honestly so impressed with this underwater deep sea treasure hunter. There's so much fun parts usage on display here, and a lot of Technic, surprisingly, which gives it a really unique but also sleek and polished look. And in the front, there's 2 arms to grab treasure, or perhaps the villain of this set, the pesky underwater snakes, or maybe eels. Now, for those of you who know my history with red Lego snakes... Oh god. Snakes! What? You can understand why this particular villain is especially terrifying to me. There's also 2 harpoons mounted to the side, which can be easily unclipped to be wielded by the diver as well, which is pretty cool. You'll notice 2 decaled elements on here. Those are both prints. One is one of the classic control panel pieces of the time, and the other is an Aqua Raider specific tail fin print with the logo printed on both sides and Sub Deep Diving printed below it. That piece is going to show up in a few sets throughout here. There's actually quite a few prints within the Aqua Raiders line. Not many of the sets include stickers, especially for the smaller ones. The set also includes a pretty nice treasure. There's a complete set of the classic chrome gold Lego coins, along with a trans green crystal and a trans blue crystal. And then we also get a small 4x4 bit of terrain with some trans green seaweed. Now, Aqua Raiders lore is pretty difficult to come by, but I found the product descriptions in these old catalogs, and I mean old, these were well loved, well read. They don't even have covers anymore. But let's take a look at what they have to say about this set. Armed with a harpoon gun, he pilots his sub-scooter in search of a long-lost chest of gold. Includes diver minifigure. Well, that wasn't very helpful. But we know it's called a sub-scooter now. Another thing that I want to highlight about these sets is the box art. There's just something about this color scheme that just really draws my eye, and it's a really pleasing color, this aqua blue that they've got going on. You can see here too that this is the point in LEGO's history where they started to rely a lot more on digital renders rather than actual set photography. And so some of the sets of this era, especially Exoforce is another good example, have some very stylized box art that makes it quite unique. I think the digitization of this becomes a lot more apparent on the back too, which is a really fun pose of the set again. Then take a look at how fake, because it is fake, that digital render of the life-size minifigure looks. From a marketing standpoint, the perks of digitizing the box art become quite obvious, right? There's some rather unrealistic poses represented here, like the snake captured like that. The dimensions just don't quite line up. And then on the back again, another great example of that is the diver's arm off to the side like that, holding the harpoon. We don't even bat an eye at this stuff today, especially think of the collectible minifigures and how they're represented, but probably pretty cutting edge for its time. This is a really nice, well-rounded set. I remember having a lot of fun with this one as a kid. There's a lot of adventure to be had in just this really nice small package. And in that regard, I think the second set is going to be a win for us too. The second smallest set of the bunch is 7771 Angler Ambush. Angler Ambush kind of switches the priorities of Deep Sea Treasure Hunter, putting most of the parts budget into the bad guy and shrinking down the good guy vehicle a little bit. But we do get 2 divers this time around, which is pretty sweet. We'll look at our little submersible first. It's very similar to the Deep Sea Treasure Hunter, just scaled down quite a bit. It's still got a place for the fins on the back, that printed tailpiece, and 2 harpoons on the side. But there's standing room only for our single diver. Even so, it's a pretty sleek craft, and there isn't a single stud visible on the thing. The detachable harpoons is a nice touch too, especially since there's one for each minifigure in this set. The other diver is equipped with an underwater jackhammer to drill through this section of rock and unearth some treasure. That can be done hitting this fairly obvious actuator here, which flings the top off, revealing, again, 4 chrome gold coins. It's a nice, simple little build, and you get another one of those trans green seaweed pieces. But the star of the show, undoubtedly here, is the angler himself. He is a beauty, and honestly, probably one of my favorite underwater sea creatures that LEGO has ever done. Again, for 2007, the build is surprisingly sleek and durable. Great design. The mouth full of teeth hinges nicely. There's plenty of room to eat a minifigure or 2 if you'd like. And those large fangs on the side do glow in the dark. And they do work after all these years. You get one of the old school whip pieces with a simple trans neon green cone in the front for the light. It would have been really sweet if they used a glow in the dark cone instead for that light, but it's not the end of the world. The eyes on the anglerfish are a print, which is really sweet. Lots of detail captured in that expression. A very frightening looking monster. Quite the upgrade from the 2 single snakes we saw in the last set. I just love how much detail they were able to put into not only this really well sculpted anglerfish, but also this tiny little sub. This set really does shine, especially at its, at least back in the day, quite affordable price tag. Here's the catalog description for Angler Ambush. What's that light shining in the darkness of the ocean depths? Is it hidden treasure? No, it's a giant anglerfish, and it's hungry. Can the divers drill out the ancient coins hidden in the rock and escape the creature's gaping jaws and glowing fangs? It's up to you to decide. The next set, 7772 Lobster Strike, definitely takes things up a level. Both our underwater vehicle and our underwater sea creature are much larger. Compared to the other Aqua Raider sets, Lobster Strike is actually quite unique. For one, the treasure is a bit different than in the other sets. We get 2 of the larger Power Miners crystals instead of the smaller jewels. There's no chrome gold coins in this set, sadly, either. But our vehicle here is also really unique. It's the only one that doesn't swim through the water. It's a treaded vehicle that roams around on the ground. It's definitely not my favorite vehicle by any means, but I really appreciate what they were trying to do here, and I like the unique spin on things. The set comes with 2 divers, or rather 1 diver and 1 driver. This is the first instance we're going to see one of the minifigures just sporting one of the knit caps. Our treaded vehicle here is pretty simple. He's got 2 arms, one with a saw for digging through rocks for treasure, and the other is a claw to grab the crystals that he finds. The vehicle is equipped with some sort of weapon on the top here too, which can rotate from side to side. And then to make sure no one sneaks up behind him, there is this poor standalone diver with a harpoon. But I don't think he's going to be any match for this truly epic lobster. Boy, he is spooky looking. These Technic ratcheting joints are very much a staple of Aqua Raiders, and we'll be seeing plenty of them in the next few sets. This guy has 2 great printed elements here on his back, and the texture of them just really goes a long way to sell the underwater look, and it helps make all these creatures pretty cohesive. There's a lot of similar parts usage within these creatures which help make them feel like they're all part of the same world. There's those ratcheting joints, of course, that we talked about, but also these large tail elements and these vine pieces, or the Paraka spine pieces that showed up in the minifigure scaled Bionicle sets. They've been done up in all sorts of colors for this theme, and I really like how it helps create the face of the lobster here. I kind of like too how the underside of the lobster is red. I mean, it's not the prettiest looking thing ever, but it gives you the impression that that's a weak spot, right? It's softer flesh compared to this hard red exoskeleton. He looks pretty sweet and is definitely a formidable foe for the Aqua Raiders to go up against. Of Lobster Strike, the catalog has to say, this high-tech underwater exploration rover has it all. Working treads, a robot arm, and a drill for collecting precious undersea crystals. But does its crew have what it takes to fight off the giant lobster? With its huge size, armored body, and giant claws, this creepy crustacean means business. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to tell you about today's video sponsor. Yeah, you heard that right, video sponsor! Haven't had one of those before. That's just because I'm really picky. You see, I was looking for something that I could genuinely get behind. Something that I believed in. And guys, if there's something that cheesy studios can get behind, it's cheese. Allow me to introduce you to the Big Moo Cheese, a delicious, cheesy experience unlike any other. The Big Moo brings a Wisconsin favorite to your kitchen as a snack, main course, or even a dessert, because why not? So how does it work? The Big Moo offers 5 delicious flavors of baked cheese. You take it, cut it how you like it, grill it, bake it, fry it, love it. The only thing you need to add is heat. The Big Moo offers tons of recipes on their website for their cheese to enhance your meals. But trust me, it's beautiful just by itself too. By using the code CHEESY10 at checkout, you're gonna get 10% off your first order of the Big Moo cheese. Guys, we really do live in a world where by eating cheese, you can support your favorite LEGO YouTuber. I mean, what a time to be alive. So thank you so much to the Big Moo Cheese for sponsoring this video. Now back to some LEGO Aqua Raiders. A video which, by the way, is much more enjoyable to watch if you're eating cheese. Now, an underwater theme would not be complete without a shark, and that's where 7773 Tiger Shark Attack comes in. More so than any of the other sets, this one feels like it came straight out of Alpha Team Mission Deep Sea, especially when it comes to the good guy vehicle. Imagine this as part of Mission Deep Sea. I mean, it fits right in. This set yet again comes with 2 minifigures, this time both decked out in their scuba gear. Rather than just a simple minifigure accessory harpoon, one of our divers gets to operate this big boy harpoon. It's a really nice build, honestly, with a great deal of movement built into it, and it feels at least a bit more threatening than just that minifigure accessory. The other diver gets to sit in the comfort of this quite nice submersible. The thing is armed to the teeth too. It's got the 2 minifigure accessory harpoons on the side, which seems pretty standard for Aqua Raiders vehicles about now. It's also got these 2 tridents. They don't do anything, but they sure look threatening. And then in the front, we also get one of the spring-loaded missiles. That was pretty close. And you might be surprised too to hear that there are no stickers in this set at all. All the details you see here on this submersible are prints, which is fantastic. I really like the use of the flexible hose tubing here on the side. I think that just works really well for underwater builds. The role of this one is definitely offense and not just treasure mining. And it's a good thing they have a vehicle like this, because this set's predator is also quite the monster. It is our tiger shark, and he looks great. It's one of the best realistic sharks I think that LEGO has ever done. No stickers to be found here in this set, of course, so that windscreen piece done in dark bluish gray in the front is printed, and it looks really great. I love the detail they've managed to capture in the eyes. And then in the back, there's actually a bit of movement in the tail as well. That's accomplished surprisingly using those rubber Technic pieces, so you can get some really smooth motion out of it. It's kind of cool. One technique I really like is how they've accomplished this fin with that familiar tail piece, but just switched upside down to create that iconic shark-shaped tail. And the size of it just feels perfect. They've done a great job of detailing the underside too with that white belly. Yeah, it just feels really complete and well-rounded. There's not much to it beyond that, but size I think was a really important factor to get right, and they definitely got the size right. I mean, compare these two side by side, this is a big boy. Like the other sets too, we get some treasure. This time around we have the vine pieces instead of the trans green seaweed, which is kind of nice. I think that works very well. And then for the treasure we have a golden plate with 3 jewels set on it. As I go through these sets, I can't help but notice how well these all live out LEGO's battle in a box design philosophy, where you've got pretty evenly matched good guys versus bad guys in all of these. You could have just one set, any one from any price range, and still tell some compelling stories and have a lot of fun with it. Aqua Raiders as a theme definitely doesn't take a whole lot of risks. It doesn't try anything too new, crazy, or ambitious. And I honestly think that's okay, because it takes this formula and works with it so well. They're all well designed, but also unique enough that you can happily collect more than just one set too. I think that's really cool. The LEGO catalog has a small blurb on Tiger Shark Attack too. The crew of this trident-tipped battle submarine has discovered a jewel-encrusted treasure deep beneath the sea. Unfortunately, it's in the path of a giant tiger shark. Will the diver's harpoon cannon and firing aqua missile be enough to survive the shark's ferocious teeth and powerful thrashing tail? The next set, 7774 Crab Crusher, honestly, in my opinion, remains the best realistic submarine that LEGO has ever done. This set here includes a total of 3 minifigures. We get 2 divers and then also this skeleton left to guard the treasure. Like many of the other sets, it's just a simple terrain build we've got here. It's a 4x4 plate with some seaweed detailing, some rock detailing, and then we get a barrel full of gems. Let's see what's inside here. Looks like we do get a full set of chrome gold coins, which is fantastic, a trans neon green crystal, and a trans light blue crystal. There's a small side vehicle here, just a propulsion craft with 2 harpoons again on the side. Super cute and simple, but very effective. There's also just a little control panel on the back. Helps our minifigures get around just a wee bit faster. I do love this underwater monster quite a bit. Of course, you've probably noticed all sorts of those Technic ratcheting joints again, which make up the arms and leg of the crab. I love how similar the design of this is to that lobster. Again, it just helps them feel like part of the same world. You can see his face makes use of the vine pieces again. He's got teeth and spikes all over him. I really love the texturing done here with these small armor plates. The 2 Exoforce armor plates that make up his back are identical prints, again with that bubbly texture that we saw on the lobster. It's real subtle, but again, quite effective. Yeah, he's a great little dude. But hey, let's take a look at this beauty. This time around, unsurprisingly, we finally do get stickers, but that's quite okay. This makes for a beautiful submarine. And the best part about all of this is that there's a great interior on the inside. But before we get there, let's see what we have on the outside to look at. First of all, plenty of weapons. We get these great classic Aquazone chrome silver harpoons, 4 of them total in the set. I do wish some of the other sets had included these too, because they are an awesome piece. I mean, how can you not love chrome elements? In the front, we get more harpoons. They don't fire or anything either, but they look pretty cool. It's just the regular spear elements done in silver. And really well hidden and integrated into the build is one of those spring-loaded shooters. The actuator's right here, and if you need to access that for any reason, you can also open up this flap. Makes it a little bit easier to reload it, but I really like how hidden away that is. Great use of the space. On the top portion of the craft, opening this up reveals a tiny little robot. He just fits snugly into this top portion. He's got two little arms, which are perfect for grabbing crystals, or maybe pesky red snakes if they show up too. A really cute little build. I like it a lot. And then we can take that whole section off. Also, open up the sides here to get access to the interior. And then while it's not as easy, you can take off this windscreen in the back too to get even more access to some interior details. There's lots of fun stuff going on in here. We've got our second minifigure running the controls. He's got this cool stickered computer screen in front of him, mapping out the ocean surface with sonar, which is pretty sweet. There's lots and lots of room to store various gear items, like an entire extra set of scuba gear for this particular dive. Towards the back of the craft too, there's all sorts of tools like yet another harpoon, jackhammer, hammer, and a wrench. The wrench is provided so you can do any maintenance on the engine, which they've actually included here. The designers just made really good use of this space. It's really cool, and I love that they were able to fit all those accessories in here. And the fact that these walls open up too, it's really easy to access. I'm not entirely sure how practical it is, but you can split the sub up too, and this can become an independent craft. It's not a very clean separation like some of the spacecraft that you used to see from back in the day. This doesn't look like much of a standalone vehicle, if I'm totally honest, but hey, why not add something like this? I think it does add value and make the set just a bit more fun. When it comes to a description, the LEGO catalog has this to say of Crab Crusher, which, by the way, appears to be an award winner. Here comes the biggest Aqua Raider submarine of them all. Equipped for undersea adventures with cannons, harpoons, a detachable mini-sub, and a launching aqua missile, this aquatic explorer is the king of the depths. At least until it encounters the giant monster crab. Now it's a fight to the finish between the submarine and the savage sea beast. Better hope the crew doesn't end up like that old pirate skeleton and his treasure. And now we get to the big one, 7775 Aquabase Invasion. Certainly as a kid, and I think sometimes as an adult too, we judge an entire LEGO theme based on the quality of its base. A LEGO in-house theme that doesn't have a headquarters, a massive base, just feels like it's always missing something. And thankfully here, Aqua Raiders definitely does it right. I picked this up last year on Bricklink, and it was missing no less than 20 pieces. It was ridiculous. I think it's the only time I've had to leave like neutral feedback on a seller. But all the pieces are here now, and there's some really cool pieces, especially in that giant squid. The giant squid was quite surprising to me. There's all sorts of great glow-in-the-dark elements here again, and some of them you might not expect, such as those eyes. The eyes are made up of two of those half-sphere pieces which fit into that larger bowl so that they can rotate around. You've probably seen this a lot of times in Star Wars sets for various turrets. That outer hemisphere is a glow-in-the-dark element, definitely unique to this set. And if that wasn't cool enough, the other hemisphere, deeper in the eye, is really, really interesting. It's dual injection molded with red and a white. Believe it or not, that's a piece that actually appeared as a fruit bowl in a Belleville dollhouse. Giant squids, of course, are famous for having massive eyeballs, and so the fact that they went all out here to make those, as otherworldly and haunting as they did here, is absolutely incredible. LEGO definitely did their research for this creature. If the eyes weren't disturbing enough, perhaps the skeleton of a former Aqua Raiders diver, clearly visible, will definitely put you on edge. That windscreen there is specially printed for this set. Yeah, it's definitely a worthy final boss for the big base. Sometimes too, a lot of these big base sets focus solely on the base, which I think is totally fine, and just have a small villain side build. But this, you get the best of both worlds without too crazy of a price tag too. And yeah, that base is substantial. It's built atop a 16 by 16 base plate connected to a larger 16 by 32 base plate. The entire Aqua base is elevated above the ground too, and without too many pieces, it's able to add a lot of substance to the build. It makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. But don't let that fool you, because there's still plenty of room on the inside of the main structure. The interior here is delightfully decked out. There's computers, scanners, tools, weapons, places to store your scuba gear, a crane, a pressurized door to access the outside. So many great details, and all of this is protected very thoroughly by a whole range of weapons on the sides and on the top. The main function of this main room is the ability to deploy a sub. Well, sub is probably a strong word for this little guy. It's just an underwater propulsion craft, but it works, and the fact that it can fit and work with the system makes it a lot cooler. It can easily be deployed to the divers by dropping it down this chute. Might be useful for escaping a giant squid. If we make our way over to the left here, you'll see a landing platform for a larger submarine. The sub, yet again, is really nicely designed, making use of a lot of great rounded pieces. It also uses the small space really effectively. The front opens to seat a single driver, and in the back there's actually room for this crate full of treasure that the set includes. There's 2 trans light blue crystals and a full set of those wonderful golden coins. As large as that crate is, it fits easily in the back there. There's a propeller on the back of the craft, and that whole sub-assembly can move back and forth for more realistic motion. I think that's great. There's a turret on top, which can also move, and then lights on the side. It all just feels very grounded and realistic, which is something I really like about this theme. It locks into place too nicely on that landing platform, and there's 3 printed 1x4 pieces with the hazard stripes on them, as well as this tank of air, some seaweed, and beneath it you also get that bright light orange crab. Always love getting some extra sea creatures. The bridge here is the only thing that connects these 2 halves of the base together, and then there's this pressurized door to create some sort of realism for re-entering the base, which I think is cool. I definitely too should make note of the fun parts usage happening throughout this base. Like the Slave 1 windshields recolored in transparent light blue for the bulk of the base. It makes it super easy to see in and out of the base, which I think is fantastic. Also, lots of flexible hose tubing to help capture that rounded shape. Yeah, it's not exactly watertight, but I think it sells the look well enough to be convincing. There's also some more of that tubing down here to provide oxygen, I assume, for the divers. If I remember correctly too, the half windscreens up here in trans light blue are also exclusive to this set. This one's a winner for me. There's no shortage of stuff to do with this set. You get the big scary monster, you get 2 underwater craft, a huge base filled with so much gear and accessories, which is absolutely awesome. And the set does come with 4 divers too, well, 5 divers? And that feels like you have a whole team ready to go. Then for the description of Aquabase Invasion. Constructed on the seabed deep beneath the waves, the high-tech Aqua Raiders headquarters has a vehicle dock, a control station with crane arm, a mini-sub launching ramp, and an exploration pod for deep-sea missions. Good thing it's protected by plenty of harpoon cannons and a firing aqua rocket, because a giant squid is on the attack. With posable tentacles and a skeleton in its transparent belly, the sea monster will be tough for the Aquabase crew to beat. I do have the instruction booklets for this set too, which don't feature too much crazy, but there is a nice picture of all the sets on the back, which is pretty sweet. But anyway, before we get to the last set, there's a few gear items I want to take a look at. According to Bricklink, there are 3 total Aqua Raiders gear items. One of them, of course, is the classic Lego watch. This thing is pretty difficult to find though, and it appears that there's only one I could find for sale at the time of this recording for like 30 euros new, which isn't that bad of a deal, but oh man, it would probably cost way too much to ship that for a silly little watch. Another gear item that I almost picked up is the Aqua Raiders water gun. Yet, I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to look at pictures of it. One thing that I did pick up, and I'm glad I did because it appears to be the rarest of the bunch, is the Aqua Raiders stationary set. I could not find any of these on eBay, I could not find any of these on Bricklink anymore, yet here it is, bask in its radiance. The set includes 2 pencils, 5 colored pencils, 1 ruler, and 1 notepad, all of course with delightful Aqua Raiders theming. Even the packaging is a bit of a treat here, and I'm honestly super stoked to have this ridiculous item. It's such a bizarre piece of Lego history. And it's funny that even for these very small themes that only lasted a year with 1 wave, they produced some gear items alongside with it. And that just leaves us with one last set, 7776, the Shipwreck. The Shipwreck would have come out a month later than the other Aqua Raider sets in February of 2007, and would have been marketed as a limited retail release, making it a much harder item to find, especially today. Right away, I think you can tell that this set is just different than some of the others. There's no big spooky sea monsters in this one, just two little green snakes again. Instead, we get a much larger underwater build. And of course, that's the Shipwreck. We might as well take a look at that one first. The Shipwreck makes very effective use of these large reddish-brown bowed elements to create the skeleton of a sunken sea vessel. Within the ruins of the Shipwreck, there's all sorts of goodies, such as the drowned king who was once being transported on this vessel, a bright light orange crab, a golden plate, and of course, a treasure chest. But you need to be careful when unearthing this treasure chest, because moving it forward makes the mast of the ship a bit unstable, and it can come crashing down on you. But if you are able to avoid that, inside is the best treasure that we've seen to date. A fitting finale, I suppose, with our last set. There's a whole set of chrome gold coins, plus a red crystal, green crystal, yellow crystal, light blue crystal, pink crystal, and a blue crystal too for good measure. This has got to be one of the best sets for gemstone variety. With all that treasure, you're going to need a submarine that can carry it all up to the surface. And thankfully, that's what we get here with Sub 76. Sub 76 sets itself apart from the other sets in this wave too by a much higher reliance on the color red. That especially comes through, well, pretty much exclusively comes through in the sticker detailing, of which there are a lot in this set. It definitely stands out against all the other submarines and sea vehicles, but not in a bad way, I don't think. Again, a very nice classical design here, which I really appreciate. There's a really spacious cockpit too, provided by this spherical windshield, and then much like in Crab Crusher, you can open up these side panels to very easily access the minifigure inside. The arms of the submarine here prove very useful. One is a claw, great again for grabbing pesky snakes, and then the other is a magnet. It's actually the last appearance of this particular magnet, which had historically been used throughout trains for decades. But it's used to great effect here, much like it was in Mtron, to carry around packages. And this set includes two Aqua Raiders little containers. It's all sticker detailing, but I really like it. Inside you can place your treasure, and this can carry them to the surface. I do kind of wish that these could be stored in the submarine somehow, but there just isn't room, unfortunately. I think everything here looks really, really good as well. Of course, you are missing out on that big sea creature, but I think that's okay because this thing is so awesome. And then we've got one last catalog description for the Shipwreck here too. Deep below the waves, the Aqua Raiders have discovered a long-lost shipwreck with an ancient king's fortune in gold and jewels. Help the deep-sea divers use their high-tech sub's robotic arms and working magnetic collector to pick up the sunken treasure, but watch out for the poisonous sea snakes and the ship's falling mast. The catalog also points out one of two Aqua Raiders collections that you could purchase. The first Aqua Raiders collection included all the January sets, and the second one included all the January sets plus the Shipwreck. That's spelled out here for set number K7776 Ultimate Aqua Raiders Collection. A $209 value, but sold for $199.99. What a steal. And there you go. That is a complete look at LEGO Aqua Raiders from 2007. It honestly was quite a delight to put these sets back together, and in the case of some, for the first time. This theme is so often overshadowed by Atlantis. Atlantis, which got a much larger marketing budget, 2 more whole waves, and a lot more sets out of it. But Atlantis in its final form would not have been the same without the groundwork laid by the incredible work done by the designers for Aqua Raiders 2. And when it comes to submarine design, I do believe that Aqua Raiders has yet to be topped. I mean, look at the Crab Crusher, for example. That thing is awesome and filled with lots of usable interior and great accessories. And look at the creatures too. They were way ahead of their time. The shaping on all of them is really well done, and I think they stay a lot more true to that authentic LEGO look than a lot of modern creatures do today. And as something of an old school LEGO lover myself, I really do appreciate that. Honestly, I think underwater exploration is something that LEGO has always thrived at. And perhaps the sets just don't sell as well as they would like them to, but I've always had a soft spot for these themes, like divers, like Atlantis, like Aqua Raiders, or even when City goes underwater with some cool new sets. And if LEGO were to tackle underwater again, what would you like to see from them? We get tastes of it every once in a while, from Ninjago, from City of course, from Monkey Kid, but what if we had another standalone underwater theme with a simple premise here like Aqua Raiders or the Aqua Zone sets before it? But anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Thank you as always for watching. You can look forward to an Atlantis 3-part revisiting coming sometime in the future. I'm really looking forward to doing that one. But I hope I've convinced you of the merits of this oft-forgotten underwater theme. I think Aqua Raiders really does have something special going for it. Anyways, have yourself a great life, and I'll see you later.